You can survive something in life, and once you get through that thing, completely not recognize yourself. You can go back to work, you can be answering phone calls and emails and showing up on time, and inside feel like the person that you were is completely gone. Now, that doesn't indicate necessarily that something is wrong with you. That's part of what grief actually does to the brain and to your identity. If you've been on this channel for a while, you've probably noticed that I've stepped back for some time. And that's because my mother died. Now, I don't want to make this video about the details of my loss, but I do want to talk about something that doesn't get discussed enough. Not just the pain of grief, but the identity disruption that comes with it. Because what a lot of people don't understand is when a loss that significant hits, it doesn't just break your heart, it reorganizes your internal world. Now, from a neuropsychological standpoint, what's actually happening is grief is activating multiple systems all at the same time. Your attachment system, your stress response system, and your memory networks. Now, in addition to that, there are parts of your brain being activated that are involved in your identity and self-narrative. Regions or collections, if you will, of pathways we call the default mode network, or DMN. Think about it. When you lose, for instance, a parent, your brain has been conditioned and in some ways hardwired to expect them, to anticipate them. And we build our parents into our future simulations all the time. And when it doesn't find them, that builds friction. Your gears are going to kind of grind up, and that can feel very foggy. Not to mention, that's annoying. And so there's frustration that comes along with that. Sometimes there's just complete numbness or just this strange sort of loss of motivation. Essentially, there are these emotional waves that just don't follow logic. Okay, now here's the part that I don't hear a lot of people talking about. You're not just losing the person. You didn't just lose the person. You lost who you were in relation to them. The son, the daughter, the one who called every Sunday, the one who asked for advice, the one who could still get things right that maybe they didn't, the one who was still someone's child. And so when that relational mirror disappears, your brain has to essentially renegotiate identity. And that takes a tremendous amount of cognitive and emotional energy. Now, many high-functioning people tend to cope with grief through increasing their performance. They work harder, they stay busy, they don't slow down. And I don't want to completely knock this because productivity can help in small doses. But the problem is that if you never slow down, your brain needs that energy to do this sort of work, to reorganize your narrative identity. And if you're constantly performing, you're sort of siphoning off energy your brain needs to do that and ultimately suppressing that process. So from the outside, you can look completely fine, but underneath, you're slowly being unmoored. And then we might tend to sort of over-compartmentalize our grief or other parts of ourselves in relation to the person that we've lost. And then components of your identity can just become fragmented or fractured. Now, what we understand actually helps isn't just to feel your feelings. There's a process that we can use that can actually help us to navigate this, a psychological structure, if you will. This is actually one of the reasons that I developed the SORT framework. See it, offload it, refocus, and target your values. Because the thing is, whether it's trauma, whether it's grief, the mind can become a really noisy place. SORT gives that noise a place to go. Okay, so the first step, see it, what we need to do is to actually recognize what's happening internally, not what you think should be happening, because grief doesn't follow rules. And then the next thing we need to do is to figure out how to offload it. We need to externalize the mental clutter. So record voice memos, journal, write down your thoughts in kind of a free association sort of way without going back and editing them. I will share with you, after my mom died, my mind was an incredibly noisy place. I practiced this stuff, and I can tell you that offloading what was happening inside of me very much helped to stop rumination from ruining my life. Now, the third step is to refocus. It's okay to initially feel what you're feeling, but past a certain point, you have to decide where your attention goes. Even briefly, I'm not saying this has to be all the time, because you can't control grief waves, but you definitely can redirect your attention when you're starting to spiral. Now, what do you direct your attention to? Well, that's where the fourth step comes into play: target values. Think of your values like your identity anchor, if you will. Even if you lose a role like son, daughter, or caregiver, your values live on. I'm a big fan of the cardinal virtues. So for me, what still matters is integrity, wisdom, temerity, things like that. So while grief can remove or change your roles, it cannot remove your core values. And if we're going to rebuild after loss, it is going to mean anchoring to those, unless you just want to sort of meander or drift through life, which, hey, if that's your thing, like, you do you, boo-boo. But look, kidding aside, if you've read the Mental Clarity Playbook, you're going to recognize that structure. Now, if not, that's okay, but the core idea, simply put, is that structure is what provides clarity. Now, in terms of that structure, if you can't quite get here yet, focus on at least waking up around a consistent time, getting to bed at a consistent time, try to eat meals at consistent times. Again, think about just the basics if that's where we're at. And then once you've got a general grasp on that, you can come back to this idea of rebuilding, structuring your narrative. Now, going forward, this channel is going to focus more specifically on a few things. Number one, what trauma patterns look like in high-functioning adults. Number two, identity disruption. We'll also be focusing on attachment dynamics. And finally, how modern culture and society interacts with our nervous system. So if you're interested in more than just some surface level advice and you want a deeper psychological understanding of these things, in other words, if you're truly trying to understand your mind instead of just looking for a few flippant quick fixes, then you're in the right place. So next week, for instance, we're going to be talking about why hyper-independence can sometimes, or rather often, be a trauma response. Until then, thank you guys for watching and or listening. Take care of yourselves out there, and we'll see you next week.